Action for Gun Sense in America. Has anybody heard of us besides the two people that I know here? Okay. So we are a nationwide group, 5 million members across the country now. We just outspent the NRA across the country, so yay, that makes you happy. So how many people are going to see family for Thanksgiving soon? All right, so we title this Fork Over the Facts. We just recently changed it from Talking Turkey to Fork Over the Facts. So we do this presentation around this time because we know that lots of people are going to go visit families for Thanksgiving, and this topic might come up. So about gun violence and gun violence prevention, and if you're like most people, you probably have some family members that have some common misconceptions about gun violence and prevention and things, and so that's what this presentation is about. Fork over the facts. So the first myth we have is that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So, you've all heard this one before. Who's heard this one before? Raise your hand if you've heard this myth, right? But if this was true, America would be the safest country on earth. Instead, we have a gun homicide rate 25 times that of other high-income countries. We know that even some of the most highly trained law enforcement officers in the country, those of the New York City Police Department, see their ability to shoot accurately decrease significantly when engaged in gunfights with perpetrators. So data just doesn't support this assertion. Yes.
From the sound upstairs?
Yes. Take the mic.
Take the mic out and hold it, yeah.
All right.
Thank
I'd
you.
be more comfortable that way. Like Shorty over here. Good? All right. So the next myth, arming teachers will keep our kids safer in their schools. Anyone heard that one? Okay. I'm a teacher myself, 6th grade. So this one really hits home for me. It just makes no sense to me at all, but trust me, in Florida, they just voted to arm their teachers, even after everything that just happened there. And we have quite a few politicians in Michigan that were previously teachers and believe in this too and want to make this happen here, where we would have to arm all of our teachers. Fact, arming teachers introduces new risks to children and teachers. You'd think that would be common sense, but not for everyone. School safety experts, law enforcement, teachers especially, and parents oppose arming teachers for the most part. So, yeah. Any questions about that one? Research casts significant doubt on the ability of teachers to stop active shooters. And they're doing all of these drills around the country and showing that even those drills are really not making teachers more prepared. They're more likely to accidentally shoot students, which just is really disturbing to me. So the question is, how can teachers who are trained to educate be even more precise than law enforcement under the stress of school shooting and take out a shooter without injuring or worse, killing someone who isn't their intended target? And if you ask law enforcement, they'll tell you that armed civilians complicate law enforcement response to active shooter incidents because, in the words of former Dallas Police Chief David Brown, we don't know who the good guy is versus the bad guy when everyone starts shooting. They didn't mention this here, but an additional argument that I've heard, sadly, is this might disproportionately affect low-income schools too, where there might be teachers that might use these guns as a way to threaten students of color in their classrooms, and that could be disproportionately threatening and affecting those students as well. So, I mean, obviously that hasn't been proven, but it has been something that has been brought up as an argument against having armed teachers in our school.
Of course, what can make for a better school day than kids
Right.
worry about guns?
Exactly.
In the classroom already.
Exactly, yes. All right, so myth, everyone already has to get a background check when buying a gun. Anyone think that or heard that? Okay. You'd be surprised, people do think that because why would they think that? Because that's common sense, right? You would hope that we all at least had a background check, but the fact is, federal law only requires licensed dealers to perform background checks. So that means thousands of guns are exchanged each year without one, often online or at gun shows. So that's, if you look at our goals as Moms Demand Action, that's one of our big ones, is to make federal background checks. And it has passed in the House. And it has been sitting there for how long now? Over 250 days, and has not been brought up because of, guess who? Mitch McConnell.
Moscow Mitch.
Moscow Mitch.
No,
yes.
I didn't do it.
So, yeah, so if you text checks to 64433 right now. Anybody wants to take out their phone, if that's okay here. I know in church you're not supposed to take out your phones, but so if you text checks to 64433 right now, that will put in a little message to your representatives automatically to push them to tell them to vote on this. Now, most of our politicians in Michigan already do support that, but still, they need to hear our voices. So that's an easy way to do that, through our organization. Let's see. Okay, the federal law requiring background checks on all gun sales only covers sales from licensed dealers. So if you buy a gun at Walmart, which you can't anymore, right? You shouldn't be able to. Recently, Walmart sided with Meijer and a couple other stores that you can't, so we need to update this. They're required to run a background check, however, millions of guns are sold without one. We talked about that. You can buy a gun at a garage sale, online, or a gun show legally in 31 states without a background check. And you can just see how many perfectly legal ads for unlicensed guns happen online in your state by going to everytownresearch.org/unchecked. If anyone wants that info, we have lots of handouts on the research and everything too. Okay, this holiday season, work over the facts. Myth, federal law prohibits all domestic abusers from having guns. Did anyone think that?
7 years.
7 years, all right. So, unfortunately, I mean, I'm of the belief that someone that's been charged with the domestic abuse should not have access to a gun anymore. But federal law generally does not cover abusive dating partners or convicted stalkers. So this is what we call the boyfriend loophole. So as the law stands now, it can only be someone that you are married to. And we all know that that is just does not reflect our society anymore, that most people have long-term dating partners. This would discriminate against people that aren't even allowed to get married and not cover them. So while federal law does prohibit abusers convicted of felony and misdemeanor domestic violence crimes and those subject to domestic violence restraining orders from having guns, it generally does not cover abusive dating partners. or convicted stalkers, nor does it require that offenders turn in the guns they already have. So while some assume that federal law prohibits all domestic abusers from having guns, the truth is that there are still huge loopholes in our gun laws, and that on average, 50 American women are shot and killed every month at the hands of their current or former intimate partner. So yeah. They didn't mention this here, but they're starting to do research on a lot of the mass shooters, and finding out that one of the red flags is that many of them had domestic violence somehow in their background. It's like a key, it's like one of the only things almost all of them have in common, is some kind of stalking or relationship thing where they had domestic abuse in their background. Myth: if you don't own guns, you don't need to worry about your kids getting a hold of one. So the fact is, nearly 4.6 million US children live in a household with at least one loaded and unlocked gun. Children and teens access guns in cars and homes other than their own. This one's very, very personal for me as well. We've seen that even recently just in Michigan, even in Pontiac recently. I want to say a year ago, not even, there was a kid that got a hold of an unlocked gun in his home. So approximately, we've said that, children and teens access guns in the homes of family and other adults they know, not just in their own homes. And in almost 80% of incidents involving guns on a school campus, shooters obtain their guns from home, their relative's home, or from the home of a friend. So it's not just your home that matters. And we and Moms Demand Action also have a gun safety program where we call Be Smart. And if you go to besmartforkids.org, we do presentations where we're like, we know people have guns, we know people want to feel like feel protected in their home, and we understand that. But we say it is on the adult's responsibility to have them locked up. We promote safe storage, we give out free gun locks. We go to events in Pontiac almost once a month, giving out free gun locks, and they go like you wouldn't believe. We give out hundreds of them. Kids take them and say, can I have one for my uncle because his gun's in the drawer? They know where they are. Kids are curious. This is very personal to me, this one. I have a kid, and so I'm starting to get that where I'm like, oh no, I have to ask that question. But I do. I know I have to ask. Did you have a comment or a question?
I was off on that statement you made. That's on the parent.
Yeah.
I have
Exactly.
5 kids.
Yeah.
I own 18 guns.
Yeah.
All my kids know how to use a gun.
Yeah.
My youngest is 3. She's
Yeah.
older than 22.
Well,
Safe.
it is about, you can teach them, but again, we feel that curiosity.
That's because kids
Yeah.
around the gun,
Yeah.
they see a gun.
Yeah.
They go for a friend, I just see a gun.
Yeah.
They go play with it.
Yeah.
My kids ain't gonna do it. For the simple fact they know this is something to take their life. That comes back on the parent, teaching their kid the right way. If you have a gun,
Yeah.
most people carry guns for protection.
Right.
You have one in your house to protect your family.
Yeah.
So if you got a gun in your home and it's got a lock on it,
Yeah.
it takes me 20 minutes to unlock this gun. It's a man that came to my house and shot me in the head.
Yeah.
My guns have a lock on it.
Yeah.
That's pointless.
So what we say when people say that is we say there are biometric safes that are with safe technology. You can literally just put your hand on it, and you can get those on Amazon for like $100.
That's actually what I have in my house. My cousin decided to just put my hand in to go real quick, it pops open.
If you ain't there and your wife there by herself, then
Well, first of all, it's just me, my dog, and my dog in the house.
Yeah.
So unless my dog has a dog.
if your daughter in the house, then what?
Well,
Yeah.
she knows what the gun is and she knows not to go to it. I'm just saying, I Well,
Can she get to it if she needed?
Yeah.
If she needed to protect herself, can she get to it?
First, she's only 7 years old, so,
What does that matter?
because she's never in a position to need a gun when I'm not there.
Yeah. So,
I'm home.
yeah.
She's not home alone.
So, that's what we say. We say there are ways to own guns in your home, but we just don't believe that teaching them is enough. We see, unfortunately, we're on these sites on Facebook and websites where parents have said that, and then they still, and we feel like locking them up is the best choice, and that more likely, statistically, accidents are to happen than someone protecting themselves with it, unfortunately. It's just what the statistics show. By a wide margin. We're not saying that there aren't situations where you might be in a situation where you feel that you're more likely to protect yourself and need it quickly, but unfortunately, statistics just don't show that. So, I understand the desire to want to protect our home, but you just never know. Some kids, you might be right. I'm not saying that there might be kids that are very aware. My kid would not be. As much as I've taught him about other things, I see him wanting to do those things that I've told him not to do. You know what I'm saying? Some kids are just like that. They want to rebel. They want to do what you tell them not to do, unfortunately. And as a teacher, I see that too. Don't touch the fire. Fire! Cool, yay. So, you know your kids, but not everyone knows their kids as well as you might. You know what I'm saying? So better safe than sorry. That's what we feel. Hope that helped. One of the myths we say is that a small child cannot pull a trigger, but we know that every year nearly 350 American children under the age of 18 gain access to a gun and unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else. We don't like to say accidents, again, because we feel like it's on the parents to make sure that they're locked up and that that's children's natural response is curiosity, and that they're not always aware of the realities of how permanent that can be. Unfortunately, they watch video games and they see people getting shot and then coming back to life, and so some kids just don't quite understand that. Some kids, 350 of them every year. Yay, moving on from kids. Okay. Who's heard this one? Strong gun laws don't work, look at Chicago. Ooh, they love that one. We really love that one. Yeah, Chicago, lots of crime and violence. But the fact is, Chicago proves why we should push for stronger federal gun laws. Federal gun laws being the key. Because many of the guns, most of the guns, I should say, used in crime in Chicago can be traced back to nearby states with weaker gun laws. Although background checks are required for gun sales in Illinois, Chicago is subject to the consequences of other states' weak gun laws, especially Indiana. Chicago proves why we must push for strong federal gun laws. Many of the guns used in crime in Chicago can be traced back to nearby states. This one was talked about at the last presentation. Does anyone remember that? Was anyone here for the last one? Do you remember what the discussion was? Obviously, as someone very concerned about this issue, I remember it. There were two gentlemen here and a woman that were talking about the argument that in Japan, I think it was, Yeah, they were talking about Japan and how the suicide rate is very high there, even though they don't have access to guns. But the facts are we're a different country, and most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. So I think the clarification in Japan is that they do have mental health crisis. Their culture is very different, but they attempt suicide at a higher rate, but it doesn't mean it's successful. Approximately 80% of gun suicide attempts end in death, and across all suicide attempts not involving a firearm, less than 5% will result in death. This again is very personal to me as a teacher. 6th graders, I've had three 6th graders in the last 3 months attempt suicide. One swallowed hand sanitizer, lots of it, and she is now in my classroom getting therapy and is fine, thankfully. Another girl tried to cut herself with scissors and didn't succeed, and now she's getting help. So sometimes it's just an impulsive act, a cry for help, and we hope they don't succeed with access to a gun. Means matter when it comes to suicide, and firearm suicide is uniquely lethal, 85% end in death. But if you take guns out of the equation, less than 5% of suicide attempts are fatal. That's why it's so important to prevent someone in crisis from gaining access to a gun. Okay, so now, those are some myths. Did you add in my other one? Let's see.
Just what was emailed to me.
Okay. Well, the other one, I'll pass out some literature. It was about legislative actions that we're taking in Michigan to try and prevent those things. Specifically, I'll pass out the most important thing we're pushing for in Michigan, this Moms Demand Action, is a domestic violence law. So federally, again, we have a domestic violence law, but many states do have them individually, and Michigan doesn't. And it would close the boyfriend loophole in our state. And it's, again, being supported by some Republicans as well. It's, pretty common concern. So that's the one that we have a bill, we have it developed, but we just need our House to get it to a meeting. What do you call it? A hearing. Yeah, so that one is ready to go in Michigan. The other one is a extreme risk protection order, ERPO, which would, it's also often called a red flag law. And so that would be where, at a very high bar, family members would be able to say when they think someone is in danger, saying that they're gonna kill themselves or someone else, they would be able to petition the court to have those guns temporarily removed from the home, up to a year until they feel that the person is safe or not going to hurt themselves or others. So that's another big one we're pushing for in Michigan. So if anyone wants more information, I have lots of handouts about how you can help make that happen if you want to. Any other questions? We are, just FYI, we are not anti-Second Amendment in this group. There are groups that are more extreme than us, but we call ourselves common sense. 90 or 94%? Over 90% of Americans agree with all of the things we are pushing for, especially background checks. So we call ourselves common sense background laws. And we're not just for moms. We did start as with one mom, she has a mother of 5 kids. started a Facebook group after Sandy Hook, when the kids were killed in the school, and now she started a movement of 5 million moms. We have Dads for Gun Sense chapters. We have gun owners for Gun Sense chapters on Facebook, and under all our websites you can find gun owners for Gun Sense that believe that if you're going to have a gun, it means you should be responsible. One of our main members is a gun safety trainer himself and has testified in Michigan for these bills for us. And he's the leader of our Gun Sense. He's also a survivor of gun violence himself. So it's very personal to him as well. He knows that we need guns to protect ourselves sometimes, but that it is up to them to be responsible. And he sees people that don't have the training getting access to them, and that is what bothers him. Any questions? Yes.
I know you're not from the NRA, but in your personal opinion, why do you think the NRA bans guns from their own convention?
Ooh. I'm sure we can all probably figure that out, yeah.
Is it common sense?
It's probably common sense. I mean, I think they do allow alcohol, drinking. I think even they probably know those two are not a good combination, I would think. It might be the venues. I don't know if the venues are saying they can't have them too sometimes, probably. Well, I know in our Michigan State Capitol you can carry a gun. We are an open carry state, but you can't bring a sign, a protest sign, but you can bring a gun in there. So yeah, I would say that. Lori?
Can you talk about a little bit about universal background checks and how they're not what people think they are? In Michigan, I'm really rusty.
Yeah. No, I know.
But in Michigan, we do background checks, but we only check for laws inside the state of Michigan.
Yes, yeah.
So you can have multiple murders in Ohio and go through a background check,
Mhm.
and it won't show up because under Michigan law, they only look at your background inside the state.
Right, is that, she's talking about like concealed carry reciprocity, the reciprocity issue? Yeah.
And also, they only look at background checks for small guns. They don't look at it for rifles.
Ah, yes.
So I can say universal background.
Yeah. That's one thing in Michigan. We have one word that's like, what is it? It says handguns, but it should say firearms. If we could just change that one word, it would cover a lot more weapons.
So
Yeah.
in Michigan, we really don't have any
Yeah,
kind of background
we
checks.
really don't.
Because they don't check for background, they don't look at other states,
Yeah.
and they don't look at long guns.
Yes, and federally, recently they were trying to pass something called concealed carry reciprocity, which would mean that even if you live in a state and got your gun in a state like New York that has very strict gun laws, you could take it to another state and say, I'm not obeying your laws. Wait, vice versa. Vice versa. You could get your gun in a very weak gun law state and take it somewhere with stricter gun laws and say, in my state, we feel this, so I don't have to obey your laws.
The iron pipeline.
Yes, kind of like,
Like Arkansas and Indiana,
Yeah.
pipeline right into Chicago.
exactly, yeah, so, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, but we are winning. We are winning this fight, we believe.
Are there any bills that actually look like they're going to move forward in Michigan?
Domestic violence. We don't know about this year, but we're getting there, and we have to flip the house.
Did you see the
4 seats.
horses?
4 seats. Macomb County. That's where we need to do it the most.
Did you see the law that Governor Whitmer signed just 3 days ago? Senate Bill 547.
Yeah, about domestic violence, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Historically, if you commit domestic violence and go in front of the judge and the judge says, well, I don't think it was that bad, so I'm going to defer it, and so it won't count for it. So if you don't do anything bad for a year, if
So we have our meetings once a month. If anyone's interested, I have cards, handouts. But like I said, texting or at least writing to your senators about that domestic violence law in Michigan would be very helpful right now. Oh, we have a what's the one that website that
Oh, every stat.
no, safe storage, the one that like automatically does your reps for that domestic violence one or for the extreme risk protection one. All right, I'll find it if anyone's interested. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you very much. Sorry, I hope I didn't take up too much time.